Yes, here we go. It's the Monday Club. What a weekend. Absolute classic. The writing was on the wall for a long time. We knew it. He would talk himself out of a job. He's gone. Celtic late winners under Brendan. Oh, just so good. So good. At Fir Park as well, where he has had one or two before. It was delicious as magnificent Celtic move. A magnificent 7 points clear. The performance was magnificent, by the way. Celtic just are. But anyway, we'll raise a glass to Mickey Beale. Cheers, mate. All the best to you, son.
Yes, all the best for your future endeavours, Mickey.
Thanks for taking part, pal. Anyway, we'll do all that good stuff, and then we will get to, even I'm looking forward to it this week, the opening gambit by Jonathan. But first, all that good stuff means, remember, give us a like, give us a share by all means. Slag the hair. If you want to give us a wee subscription, just hit the subscribe button. It's totally free. And obviously it helps the channel massively. If also you want to hit the wee bell button and you'll get notified ahead of each show and how late we're running, you'll be well aware of, like many of you tend to be. If you want to also become a Boise Bus member, like so many in this chat have tonight, the likes of Phil McGinley, like Patrick McLaughlin, Seamus Weatherall, San Fran Celtic, Mickey Moynihan, Ian McIntosh, Alistair Jack, Warren's Team Talk, Eddie 1888, Hunters, Johnny Logue. So many members. It makes such a big difference. Jim Dolan's in there as well. Jeez, I can't keep up with you. Jim C. Did I say him? Who cares? But anyway, there's loads of it. It's $1.99 a month. The content's always free, and it makes such a big difference. There's another couple just come in. Danish Motion, Ali, Patrick McLaughlin. It's all happening. I appreciate all the support. You very much. Keep the wheels on the road. There is a wee option below the video if you're not on iPhone where you can become a member. If you want, it's no biggie if you don't. It's all good. It just keeps like costs and that, down. Or it pays for them, I should say. And that means all the time we put in is still for free. Maybe the odd, I don't know, maybe the odd 6-pack of lager every now and then. That's about it. Anyway.
Oh, I don't know where he's gone.
That's better. My microphone cut out because I was doing a wee drum roll. Jono, this is what everyone's been waiting on. Take it away, son.
Well, Russell, there is talk in the news this week of an Indian summer and a heat wave going across the country. But when you're talking about the weather, the sun only appears to be shining on Celtic after the weekend's results. Motherwell tried their best to fan the flames. However, they were promptly extinguished by Matt O'Reilly. And ironically, as he was extinguishing those flames, he was cranking up the heat over in Govan for the 3 o'clock kickoff. And then when you went to that 3 o'clock kickoff, it would turn out to be a case that the temperature was too much for Mickey to handle, as his own fans would incinerate their manager and ensure he was cremated ashes to ashes for Mickey as his time at the football club was over. And then you look at what Rangers have done to try and improve the situation, and they have cooked up a meal that even I wouldn't feed to my dog. When you look at the likes of Davis and Alex Ray coming in, but when you look at the feast of trophies Celtic have won of late, there is no sign of that abating after what we have just witnessed this weekend. And now all attentions turn towards dining at the big boys table in Europe on Wednesday, and I think it's time for Brendan and Celtic to fill their boots.
That's it, mate. That's it. I don't know, Jonathan, if it's you Kewans anymore. There's a lot of people suggesting that you're how do you even say, is that a Dalek or a Dalek? I don't know you watch Star Wars, man. Is that a Dalek?
I don't know what that is.
You watch Star Wars, dude. Is that not for Star Wars? Is that for Star Trek?
No, that's from someone else. That's not from Star Wars.
Oh, I didn't have a clue. Right, Namor, get the balloon off him. Jono's victim speeches are classmate. Absolutely brilliant. And the dog's done a bit of what they've done to try and recover the situation in the meantime. I wouldn't feed my doggy either. Oh, as Doctor Who.
Doctor Who.
I didn't watch
that.
I didn't watch Star Wars, Doctor Who, or any of that shite. Honestly, not my thing at all. Anyway, we'll carry on. That was brilliant. And what a weekend. What a weekend. We'll talk about Celtic first. Not maybe the best display of all time. Let's be quite clear here. And the first half was very uninspiring. Second half came to life at 15, sort of 20 minutes to go. Rodgers got his subs right, though. That's the thing that you take away. And it was against the grain. I think we need to be respectful when a manager makes a bold call like taking someone like Kyogo off, but then it pays off. I think that's right. And I'm glad that O's still fit and not injured after the fans jumping on. It's like carrying one. He looked so confused. It was brilliant. But yeah, Motherwell, Sam Fad Celtic comes on and says, decent side. Undeniably, they've been on good form, particularly this season with Kettlewell. In fact, he did well last season as well, I'm talking shite. But I just think when it gets to games like that, they're the sort of games that win titles. When we scored the second goal, I went, that's it. And I said to Terry Robb, I'm calling it the title now. 30th of September. It's getting a wee bit crazy, but I am calling it now. And then what goes on to happen just makes it all the sweeter. It's the hope that kills you, though, Jonathan. 97th minute winner. You digging that?
Yes, I think the phrase limbs comes to mind. I was at the game in the away end, and let's just say I must have ended up about 3 rows almost further forward. It was a bit wild with that sort of finish to the game. I think you're right to bring it up. San Celtic is right to bring it up that Motherwell were actually pretty good on the day. I think they are going to have a pretty solid season. They proved that at Ibrox the week before, as well. And it was always going to be a tough game. Fir Park's very rarely an easy fixture by any stretch of the imagination. And so it proved once again. I felt Celtic had more gears than they showed for the first 80 minutes. But at the end of the day, the most important thing was getting the 3 points. And what we actually witnessed there is that there is that same fight and that same desire in the players. If anyone was worried that Brendan replacing Ange Postecoglou would mean that these players would stop, I think they answered that in the most emphatic of circumstances at the weekend, because it was weird, even in the ground, when we get 1-0 up and then they managed to get their equaliser. We'd heard a guy behind us, they were saying there's still 2.5 minutes to go, and there was almost still a belief in the fans, we'll get one more chance here. And even that's just still installed so much into the team, and the fans still completely bought into it. Nobody turned on the team, when it went to one each. And we ended up, picking ourselves back off the canvas and going on to get a winner. And it's one of those games where the psychological ramifications of getting that winner, as I think Terry was alluding to on the post-match show at the weekend, was the fact that, when Celtic do something like that, it just completely changes the whole dynamic of the game later on Saturday. And I was pretty confident Aberdeen were going to end up taking points after that happened. And whilst it might not have been the best performance from Celtic, it certainly won't be the best one they put in this season under Brendan. What we did see was that there is still that great character, as Brendan sometimes likes to say.
Yes.
Still display there.
I think I was having this discussion with Terry on Saturday as well, and we were saying about the amount of contracts that have been renewed. Whilst I always think it's fair to look at the recruitment side, particularly when the window's about to close and you're looking around going, I don't think the recruitment's been good enough. And I think we're entitled to look at that. But that doesn't mean that you then constantly have to bash the board for everything, or you can't give them praise when they get things right. And I like to try and be balanced that way. Is it a board that I particularly have much faith in everything, in all aspects of a forward-looking Celtic? No, it's not. But credit where it's due. And the guys that have been retained, I'm convinced that when we see the togetherness that we're beginning to see with the team, that's all, again, I think, maybe been something that was born before, but they've all committed now to the new manager, these players. They're all now in their phase 2 of their Celtic careers, and they've decided to extend that. that means they've got faith in the guy at the helm. And I think you're seeing a team, whilst if you're saying that's how it felt like in the stands, I felt like there was a chance we could still win it as well, right?
Yeah.
What the fuck do the players think then? It's a no-brainer that the players will think, just keep going. Let's get another chance. Let's try and create another chance. Keep believing. And we did it. And I think when you actually look at the finish itself with Matt O'Reilly, Jonathan, it's the absolute sort of calmness personified when he finishes that tells you there's an inner belief and you are going to score. Because I think if you're not expecting an opportunity like that, I don't think the finish then mirrors what Matt O'Reilly's did. Do you understand? Like, the pressure gets, oh, shit, didn't think they'd get a chance like that. It came, and Matt O'Reilly, that finish is brilliant under the sort of circumstances it was. And I think that then epitomises to me that we're in a situation where the team are now beginning really to believe in what Brendan's doing. The big test will be this week, Lazio. We can even have a chat about that tonight. There's so much to get through. It might even be longer than an hour. But yeah, by the time Fir Park finishes and you move, and the difference of playing a game before as well, Pally. See the difference playing a game before and going, this is what it would have looked like often under Ange if we were afforded that opportunity more times than we were last season. It was not a discussion I was all for this time last year. Right? I remember it came up in conversation around September, October time. And I says, look, we play the same amount of fucking teams home and away. Like, let's not run into that. Maybe that was a wee bit of hand rubbing off on me, Jonathan. You know, that sort of attitude. I don't know. But then when I looked ahead, after we'd had the debate on the bus, and I looked ahead at the fixtures, I went, wait the fucking now. This has been, and I went back, it was later than October. It must have been November, December. And I looked back at the last 3 months, and it was so lopsided. I counted them all up. I was like, all right, okay. Wow. That's actually is bizarre. Now, when you see Celtic get the opportunity to go further ahead, what happens when we do? It affects the other team. I think that league last season had more occasions where we were starting games. We were playing our fixture before them and extending the lead and making it more disheartening. I think we could have won that league by more points last year had that been the case. It does show you another advantage, doesn't it? Getting the game ahead. But talk to me about the calmness of the finish and the limbs that were in the stand. Did you end up in the same row?
Well, I just about did. The poor boy next to me, his glasses must have ended up on the pitch. I think he was going blind for the rest of the day. My arm kind of went up, and they were gone. He was in a bear hug by about 4 or 5 different folk. But I have to say that the composure from O'Reilly and even the celebration
Poor
from
choice of words. A bear hug.
I know a bear hug. I know a bear hug. Maybe not my best choice of words. Slip of the tongue. Happens to the best of us.
After the opening gambit, we'll let you off, mate. After the opening gambit, we'll let you off. We'll let you off.
Yeah, but I think O'Reilly's finish, and even a celebration afterwards. I never felt Matt O'Reilly even got too carried away in a celebration. It's almost like, what the fuck's the fuss about here? I knew we were going to score this one. And then you can see the reaction of the fans and, how much it means to them. I think the Motherwell fans in their corner had certainly been giving us pelters. I was sitting fairly close to them. They'd invaded the pitch when they equalised. I'm sure you've probably seen the videos of that when they thought they were getting their point, and only to end up having it snatched away from them. So it was pure delirium in the stands. But at the same time, as I go back and say, there was a belief even amongst the supporters when it went to one each. I think you just have to look back. This isn't the first time this has happened in the past 12 months. You have to remember it happened against St Johnstone at McDiarmid Park as well. Where they equalised late on in the game, and then a certain Georgios
Giacomakis. Yeah, was that the start of last season?
That was last season, I'm pretty sure. I think it was about a year ago. It would have been around about a year ago, almost exactly, I think.
That was chaos. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and that's it. St Johnstone got an equaliser, I think, in the first minute of stoppage time that day, and then we went up the pitch, and it's actually James McCarthy, if you remember, doing the only good thing he's ever done in a Celtic jersey, by getting to the ball first and getting the net on it, and then the ball goes in and Giacomakis scores. So I think because we had that in the back of our minds that we've proven we can respond to adversity, even when the clock is ticking right down on us, the team still believes they're going to end up winning it. And I think that the big thing for us is the fact that still carried on, even though the managerial has changed there. The manager's changed, and you're not looking at it and Andrew, the soundbites that we never stop. Well, we also never stop under Brendan Rodgers, and it's just something that's totally installed into this club now, is that inner belief that they're going to get a result. And I think the way that Matt O'Reilly takes the finish, I think you're quite right. He is taking it in an extremely composed fashion. I think the way he celebrates it is almost as if he knew it was coming, without trying to sound like he's being too cocky about it. I think he has that inner belief that he was going to get a chance, or Celtic were going to get a chance, and we were going to end up potentially winning that game, and that's why his celebrations weren't perhaps as over the top as they could have been. And I just think that's something that, particularly when we're looking at our rivals across the city, it's just something they don't have. I mean, that's one of the many, many differences between the clubs at the minute, but it's an absolutely crucial one in terms of winning championships, is being able to respond to adversity. And what we found at the weekend is Celtic were able to. Rangers, once again, and not for the first in this season, were not.
Not well, yes. So, from the other thing I want to talk about is Brendan on the pitch.
I noticed that.
Just running.
Yeah,
I fucking love
I thought
it.
he was going to do what Lenny did against Karagandhi and just run all the way down to the post. I could see him out of the corner of my eye coming. I was like, he never comes this far.
I think he's realised midway through it what you're saying. Fuck, he's normally so good. I loved it though. It's good to see that, and that's someone who's also there, and our confidence is now beginning to come into play. I don't know if he was trying to sell himself as overly humble, because we know he is. He's very acutely aware of his abilities as a manager, and I think he's very confident in what he can do and what he would do here. But I wonder if there was a bit of him that's, the shackles are beginning to come off again, and whoever that Brendan Light that we were discussing before, he's like, he's fucking gone. Don't you worry about that. And come January, I'll be talking Terminado again if I don't get what I want. I just wonder. But he went. Rodgers, Mickey comes in and says, Rodgers went Rodgers. He was going Raj. It's a good way of putting it, mate. I liked seeing that passion from him as well. It's not something you go, oh, it's totally unprofessional. I mean, if we look at the guy who's just departed from them, I was thinking about it. In 10 months, that's a guy who's managed to call a rival manager lucky. He's managed to do a team talk on the pitch. Remember that? Mm-hmm. He's managed in the space of 10 months to come up and basically do an interview before he got the job with BT Sport, basically saying that Angie's Celtic couldn't have got ahead of them. They would never got ahead had they stayed. Who the fuck does this guy think he is? The amount of stuff he did in 10 months. I'm trying other examples. There was more that I had. There was loads more. But anyway, there's a few. Just to get you off. I mean, Brendan running on the pitch to celebrate, again, after events. He does things after events that are positive. That's when he acts in a certain way, whether it's, pushing off a steward last week, running on the pitch today. It's after events, after he dictates or certainly influences, shall we say, outcomes in a positive manner. I think you then get far more kudos to have these moments, emotive moments. Mickey was doing them, and we'll move on to them, if you like. He was doing these sort of emotive moments, if you like, or moments of, geez, that's not quite the norm, but he was doing them after negative results because he's trying to pass the buck. He didn't want anyone to know it. This is a guy, remember, who said that he inherited a points deficit. He didn't create it. Right? That's the sort of person that he was. And this is a guy, as I said, did a team talk on the pitch. It's like after a negative result. That is madness when you think about it. I'm happy to see a manager having wee moments of joy like that. I'm all for it. And I do, as I say, I think it's a guy who's getting more and more comfortable again in the role as Celtic manager. And maybe he's been a wee bit, not surprised by the fan reaction, but maybe a wee bit taken aback at, fuck, I forgot the scale of this. And because it isn't the same as it was when I joined last time around, just need to take a wee bit of time to get adapted into it. And in the midst of all that, of course, he's put in some crucial away performances that have won us games. That, to be honest, I think at the start of a managerial reign, to go against a very informed Motherwell away, Rangers away, and what was the other one away that was Aberdeen away. You take that all the time, mate. You take that every day of the week. So, well done, Rodgers. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with seeing a bit of joy in the touchlines after positive outcomes on the pitch.
Definitely. I think when you're looking at it, it just goes to actually mirror what's always been the case between the two clubs for a while now. I think it goes back to even Brendan's first spell. You might remember the first Derby game when we beat them 5 5-1, they were doing all their talking about going for 55 before that, and then Scott Brown
It's
and everyone
true.
stayed quiet, and then Brown let fly after the events had unfolded and used the men against boys quote. And it's funny how the more things change, the more they stay the same, because it's still the exact same narratives with just different characters in there. And I think when you're looking at Brendan Rodgers, and Condors makes the brilliant point there about the fixture list. It was very much in Rangers' favour to get off to a good start. In terms of how the games are going to play out. Certainly on paper, anyway, you'd have fancied Rangers as even most neutrals to have got off to a pretty good start and possibly been leading the league at this stage, particularly when you look at where Celtic have been, not just in the transfer window, but the fact the number of injuries as well they've had to then go to these grounds. These grounds are difficult places to go, notoriously for both Celtic and Rangers. The likes of Pittodrie, Fir Park, having to go to Ibrox. But he's managed to do that with a very depleted team. He's went there with pretty much what would have been his last choice centre-back in Liam Scales. Liam Scales was for the off in the summer, and he's now actually transformed him into somebody that now we actually can count on in a lot of these games. He's kept a lot of clean sheets.
Liam though deserves a lot of credit for that as well.
Yep.
Just to be clear,
Absolutely.
Massive credit to him.
Absolutely, he's seized his opportunity, but I think also Brendan's obviously been able to get in that bit of belief into his game as well, because there are also been self-doubts for him, at the fact that he was so far down the pecking order as to whether he was going to make the grade at Celtic. And I think Rodgers has had a part to play in making sure he does feel like he belongs at the club and can play in these bigger games for us. And he's barely put a foot wrong in defence since he's gone in. So I think that's another telling part, because these are difficult games even when you've got your strongest starting 11s. Celtic have managed to win a lot of these fixtures when they're nowhere near full strength. The fact Celtic have as much as a 7-point lead at this stage of the season with the players that they've had available has been nothing short of remarkable. And that goes for the whole club, not just what Brendan has done with some of the players. But the fact we've managed to get that, and people will point towards perhaps performances haven't necessarily been great in some of the games. That was always going to be the case when we're still adjusting to a new management style, adjusting to the fact that we're without a lot of our better players for the first few weeks of the season. Celtic are only going to get better as this season goes on. That is the scary thought for Rangers. They can put whoever they want. They can put whoever they want in there as a permanent manager. They could put Pep Guardiola in there and he will struggle to turn this around, such is the momentum at Celtic Park this season now. Because the fact we've managed to put this run together as an understrength team bodes very ominously for the rest of the league when the likes of a Cameron Carter-Vickers and a Rocky, etc., get fit and are then put back into the first team as well. So, and that's before you even look at January, where there could be further strengthening too. So it's going to be really fun, I think, domestically this season, because I don't think it's a question of who's going to win the league. It's almost already became a question of how many points will Celtic win the league by, and is this going to be a repeat of Brendan's first time around, where he is back to absolutely humiliating them on a season-by-season basis?
Well, this is very interesting that you bring that up, because one of the things I've seen online as a viewpoint from a few Celtic fans, where they kind of gave a bit of credit to the board at Rangers and said, well, do you know what, this is what we should have done when Lenny was there going for the 10, because he could still influence an outcome. There's only 7 games, so in terms of where the league title's going to wind up, there's still that many games left that you're giving someone a fighting chance. I would subscribe to that if they had someone lined up. Mm-hmm. But if you're putting in interim managers now that have never, firstly, been a management team before, secondly, well...
One of them's Alex Rae. I don't think you'd say anymore. That's Alex Rae.
I totally agree with that. I'm glad you're saying it. He's an absolute clown. Do you know what? It's good, because my worry when Mickey left was I generally didn't like that guy, right? That's the honest truth. Not because I particularly feel sorry for Gio and that. These guys get paid tens of thousands of pounds a week, right? He's got a very, privileged life. He gets to manage football teams as a job around the world, right? But what I will say is that the way Mickey Beale went about that as a fundamental in life is wrong. To sit and talk about we wouldn't have ever let that 4-point gap go had we stayed whilst the manager's in situ. to then go to games at Ibrox, to go to the pubs before it, to start texting the Rangers players before he came up the road. That tells you the guy's a prick. So I'm like, how do we get another guy that I can get such pleasure in being crap at the helm of Rangers? Because with Gio, you just felt, well, we've got your number domestically, but in Europe, fucking hell, he actually is impressive. But I tell you what, for them to go for Elliot Ray, I'm like, yep, back on board, get it right round them. Everything that goes wrong this season for them, whilst he's there, if it was only for the next couple of games, I'll feel the exact same see you attitude that I feel right now. So it all works very well. When it comes to not having that plan to win place, that shows you the pitfalls of getting rid of what you know. Now, Mickey Beale, I think you knew was going to be a disaster. But Gio, because of the success he did, I think there must have been a bit of them going, hold off here a wee bit. They didn't want to make the same mistake as last season. But once it get to the point, right, where Celtic are playing against Rangers and a Rangers team that have the same manager 2-3 years in a row, and Gerrard, we all know, was the one that didn't win in his first 2 years, but was given the one time given time, and of course that culminated, was it?
Culminated.
I don't know what I'm talking about. Culminated and then eventually win the league title. But by winning that title, expectancy then goes up. And I remember then at the time going, they'll never do that again. They'll never give a manager 2 years. So whilst they can't get any sort of consistency whatsoever, I don't see... I think it will be the odd title that we see this version of Rangers winning. I think eventually maybe it's still not yet, but I think another 5-10 years, there'll be an acceptance by some quarters in the Rangers fan base that we did actually die, right? And when we came back, it was really just to lay the odd glove and hope for the best. But in terms of actually what the competition is between the two clubs, there's a gulf that's massive and can't be bridged anytime soon and won't be bridged anytime soon. And whilst Rangers are reactive with pennies, Celtic can be reactive if they needed to with pounds. And there's a big, big difference between where the two clubs are at right now. When you actually see the images as well of Rodgers sitting with the four sort of head mounts of the managers that he's seen off, when you actually look at the names of them though, I think it was someone on Clyde One today because that was funny as fuck as well. I need to do a watch along for that. I know I'm ranting on a wee bit here, but I need to do a watch along with one of the Mondays for Clyde One. I promise I will do it. I don't even care if you want to watch it. I'll do it. We'll get Clyde One on in the background and we'll do a watch along on here because there's just too many funny bits. But one of them said, basically the managers that Rodgers has seen off, Caixhina, Warburton, the guy who was upside down, Murty, he goes, and then Mickey Beale goes, that's your equivalent of your Louis McCarry's, the guy for Arsenal. Oh my God, Liam Brady. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's your equivalent of those sort of years, John Barnes, etc. I know Tommy in between made up a very good fight. But that's where they're at. That's when you look back at it, you go, when you actually compare Brendan Rodgers, any football fan across the world, and you say, who's Brendan Rodgers? They know who he is. Those other four, they don't fucking know who they are, mate. Like, they're not even at, top level in the UK, let alone anywhere further than that. I think they're going through a period right now where reality will start dawning. And I think there's been a few moments that they've had where, how do you explain it? There's not been false dawns because the reality is they stopped 10 in a row. COVID season or not, but it's led them to a space where they probably weren't actually in reality as a football team. But then the Europa League final thing happened and you go, well, that's a bona fide achievement as far as I'm concerned. Albeit I'm glad they fucking lost in the final. But they did well to get to there. There's no two ways about it. When you look at that again, though, takes fans to a space that probably isn't set in reality. I think now, when I look at it, I just go, there's got to be that bite now where they go, fuck. Everywhere we turn, there's just a door slamming. It's just doors slamming everywhere we turn. It's another year Celtic are going to have a 20 to 30 million pound cash advantage, Jonathan, just by the CL qualification. We'll win the league this year. That'll be there next summer. a 40 to 50 million potentially cash advantage, unless the coefficient works out that we don't actually get the automatic qualification, which it still can, as far as I'm led to believe. So, with all that in mind, does it matter who they get in?
I don't think it'll matter too much while Brendan's here. I can't see them being able to put up a viable candidate that's going to be able to stop Rodgers and stop Celtic at the minute. I've not really had a chance to see who the favourites are really yet, but I've heard names like McInnes, etc., being mooted about the place. I would be astonished if they went for somebody like him, but they'll end up going for somebody that I don't think is going to be of the same gravitas, if you like, of a Brendan Rodgers. I don't think they can afford a manager of that calibre, and even if they could, they wouldn't be able to put together a package then in terms of transfer budget, and a package in terms of what the club is trying to do and envision towards a manager of that sort of level, and that will interest them. I don't think either. So I think they're going to need to try and find somebody that's going to be able to be a bit of a diamond in the rough, perhaps similar to what we did when we got Ange Postecoglou in. But as long as Brendan's here, I just can't see the trophy leaving Celtic Park. As long as Brendan's here, that trophy's staying there, as far as I'm concerned. And I just look at Rangers now, and I think reality has to be dawning on them. They are becoming a bit like that COVID season, begin to look like that freak season that Leicester City got when they won the Premiership, and you just begin to wonder if these are just going to be fleeting moments in time where Rangers perhaps get the odd win every now and then, but ultimately the majority of the time Celtic sweep up, because Celtic are going to have such a large advantage, in terms of domestic football. Celtic know how to get the job done domestically, and they've proven it so many times since Brendan really came in the first time around. Celtic, aside from that COVID season, have had Rangers' number every other season, and most of them have been extremely comfortable in doing so. And for Rangers getting to win that league title and stopping the 10, that was supposed to be where they kicked on, but that just seems to have been the end game for them. And it wouldn't surprise me if Celtic are able to put together another few titles in a row. And then you potentially are going to end up with, by the end of Brendan's contract, those Brendan Rodgers is here for 10 in a row chants might just start coming back. With the way it's been going, because I struggle to see who Rangers can bring in and how they can change their circumstances around to stop a Celtic team that, as I've said, are nowhere near the finished article yet under Brendan. This team is going to evolve, grow, get stronger, both with the players that are already at the club just now that have committed long-term futures because they've bought in to Brendan's vision, and we know these players are more than good enough domestically. We'll obviously find out in the coming weeks whether or not a lot of them are able to make the grade at the top level in European football. But give Brendan a couple of years with some of them, I think they will prove that they are good enough at that level. And then you've also got to consider, with the additional money coming in, whilst the board are, have proven to be extremely tight-fisted, if you ask me, with the money in the summer window, there is that possibility there that they could sign the right players and that further enhance the squad and further pushes away from Rangers. And even when you're talking, about domestic football, Celtic going out and spending £5-6 million on a player, that's a lot of money still for Rangers to be spending on somebody. That's where the difference really lies between the two clubs. And when I'm looking at it from that point of view, it's just very hard, both from an off-the-field standpoint and from what we've got going on with our club on the field and the vision we've got with our team. It's just like, for any neutral looking in, Celtic Football Club is a far more attractive proposition in terms of being a success in Scotland and, potentially even going further in Europe than Rangers is at this moment in time. And for Rangers to change that, they're probably going to be looking at another 3-4 years, I think, of actually having to build towards that. And the question I would put back to you there is, would they even have the same levels of patience? Because they would have had it the last time because they accepted they were in the lower leagues. They had to build themselves up, and there were a lot of them that were sensible enough to realise that was probably not going to be an overnight fix, even when they got back into the top flight. But now I don't think they're going to have that sort of level of patience at all, Russell. I really don't.
It's interesting that I don't know where the level. I think the levels of patience are going to be something that is a flagrant thing, because I think, as I say, the reality will be dawning on quite a few that we're not getting even close. I mean, see, when you're talking about the money realities, I said this in the summer, and I stand by it now. When we buy a £3 million player, we question it as a project because 9 times out of 10 when we sign a player, they're under 23. And we look at it and go, right, they're going to need a bit of development and we'll get integrated into the team. Every now and then you'll get Hitatis Maidas, but for every Hitatis Maida, there was a Ideguchi, a Kobayashi, and these guys that done 3 million and under don't really do it. But when we do then buy a home, for example, we talk about him when he plays in the Champions League and say, an inexperienced player, he's he could come good, but right now he's a bit rough around the edges. He'll need develop. If they spend £3 million a player, he has to come and hit the ground running. He has to be first team ready. He has to be smashing it in all competitions for Rangers, Europe, the league, the lot. And I mean from day zero, not even day one. We sign a £3 million player. Let's see how they get on for the first year. That's the big difference now. The golf's massive. Let's make no bones about it. From Brendan's point of view now, we've got Lazio, Jonathan, coming up at home. Now, The big thing he spoke about is making an impact in Europe. And these are words, when we talk about fucking Mickey Beale talking too much and things like that, and words coming back to haunt you, which I always knew they would with him at Rangers. I'm not trying to be Nostradamus and go, oh, remember when I said that? I think these were glaringly obvious to myself and many, many other people that eventually, when results aren't going your way and you're a Rangers supporter, they'd be going, he's actually doing my nutting talking. I was out yesterday with a great mate of mine, Marc, you know him well, and he's Rangers season ticket holder, he's dying the wool, and I said, we were 4 pints, we had exactly four in the afternoon. And I was like, what do you think, man? I was like, you must have been there yesterday. He goes, Ken, the problem with him is, he goes, he talks too much. He goes, and he spoke that much. I've not got the sympathy for him that I should. That's exactly what he said. And I thought, that's telling. And he's talked himself into this. Now, Brendan did say at the end of the day, whilst he's not talked too much or anything, but when he came in, he says he wants to make an impact in Europe. The windows already half bit him on the arse with that quote. No two ways about it. So next up, you've got, okay, you said you want to make an impact in Europe, and you've said you're happy with the window. Okay, here's a winnable game at home. That'd be a scalp, yes, but a winnable game nonetheless. Actually, Brendan's viewing Lazio at home. Is this one he's licking his lips at, or is this one he goes into with a bit of temper expectations, bit of realism here? Whilst they might not have started in Italy well this season, they've still got a far bigger budget than us, bladder, because I don't think we can keep having it both ways. You either want to make an impact in Europe or you don't. If you want to make an impact in Europe and you want to say that as part of your sort of induction speech, if you like, then you would have accepted, knowing Celtic were already in the Champions League at that point, that we're going to be playing teams of Lazio standard. And to be honest, we'd have expected a hell of a lot better teams to be having to be playing as well. I think it's a game that we need to now start looking at again like we did before and go, let's go for them. Go for the jugular against them. Let's believe we can beat them. And I just wonder what Brendan's sort of feelings are on it now. He's set up his stall that he wants to make this impact. I hope there's no trepidation now.
I think he'll be absolutely licking his lips at this one. Lazio will be a difficult game, but he'll be, acutely aware that this draw could have been a lot harder on Celtic than what they're facing here. He'll only have to look as far back as a few years to a certain Neil Lennon, who managed to, beat them both home and away. And, Lazio still have a few of those players that played that evening that will play again, on Wednesday night. So there's absolutely potential there for Celtic to manage, to get a result in this one. Again, it goes back again, I guess, to what I was saying on the Friday. I think a lot of the time what you do need in Europe is a truly great goalkeeping performance. And that's perhaps where Celtic could get unstuck because of the fact, for me, the goalkeeping situation, there isn't really a strong goalkeeper for me at that level. Joe Hart's fine. Domestically, does the job. Scott Bain can probably do okay. I thought he actually had an all right game, Bain, to be fair to him. Against Motherwell, no clangers or anything like that, fairly steady. But when you're playing in Europe, I think you always look back to the big occasions and you look at it and you always think Fraser Foster was huge under Lenny, Artur Boric was huge under Strachan, and I just wonder if the goalkeeping position not being addressed in the summer might prove to be our undoing. I hope I'm wrong on that one, because I'm absolutely convinced Celtic will go for the jugular. I'm convinced Celtic will try and win this game. I don't think they're going to be, compact and trying to, invite the pressure on from Lazio. I think Celtic will try and go a little bit gung-ho at home and try and get on the front foot against this team. I think Brendan will want his players to be brave on the ball. And they'll find in games like this as well, because Lazio are obviously going to be more open. The passing sort of football that Brendan tries to adopt domestically, there will be more spaces because Lazio will push up more than the teams do in Scotland. So there is going to be more of an opportunity there to catch them out. But the flip side of that is we then need to be extremely solid when they're on the ball. And defensively, we already know we're going to be struggling a little bit with the back line already crippled with injuries. And I don't know if, for me, Joe Hart is going to be capable, because he is going to be called upon, Russell, on Wednesday. Joe Hart will need to produce one or two huge saves if we are going to win this game on Wednesday night. And for me, the question mark is, will he be able to pull those saves off? And on that part, I am not so sure.
That then ties in with the question to an extent, though, doesn't it? Because if you want to make an impact in Europe, Brendan surely then can't share your view about the goalkeeper. I do share your view on it, by the way. Yeah. Brendan knows more about football than us. Let's be real. He obviously doesn't, because that was an area I felt that could have been identified at the start of the window, and we've not. Let's not preempt too much a negative vibe from Joe Hart, but I do understand where that chat comes from. Realistically, now the Lazio game is in full focus. What are the expectations of the support now for this? Are we just happy to be here at this level? Are we happy just to make up the numbers of it's just great to qualify and keep celebrating Money in the Bank that we don't actually ever as fans see that much benefit of, other than if we need to and do that reactive thing I was referring to earlier, then we can. Other than that, it's come out for me what money the Champions League generates. I'm too competitive for that, just as in my personality. I want to win. I want Celtic to start winning in the Champions League. I think that was a game where you win that first Champions League game at home, your first home game in it. I think the whole dynamics of the group changes. Everyone can start looking with optimism. You're not always just chasing. Why not get yourself in a position of strength? And then the belief really grows as well. That'll be that nucleus of a team that we were talking about, all renewing their deals. Their first win in the Champions League together. Suddenly that belief starts growing. I think Brendan will hedge all his bets on us getting a win this week. Not because he's being complacent about it, but what he's being is, we get that win, this whole group dynamic shifts in our favour. What do you make of that?
I think he's definitely going to be trying to win the game. I think the fans, alluding to the expectations there, I think sometimes we're playing one of the absolute creme de la creme in Europe, if we're like a Real Madrid or a Man City, something along those lines, perhaps there is a bit more of a defeatist attitude that has been prevalent in the last few years, in my opinion, in those types of games. Excuse me. But if we're looking at a game like Lazio, I think the fans will take a lot of confidence from the fact that we've proven in recent times we are capable of beating this team. You don't have to go that far through the history books to find out that we've beaten them home and away. And obviously, I don't want to lean too much on that, but I think that does instill a little bit of confidence into the supporters that this is an absolutely winnable game. And I think that changes the dynamic of what Celtic Park is going to be like, on Wednesday night. I think Celtic Park might just be a little bit more like its old self in Europe, and it might just be a little bit more of that intimidating atmosphere that the two of us grew up with O'Neill watching and seeing Celtic put some of the better teams to the sword. I also think with the way that Lazio's politics and Celtic's politics don't really mesh very well, to say the least, I think there will be a bit more of a toxicity around this sort of game, which I think gives it a little bit more of an edge than perhaps
that might work in our favour.
Which again, I think does work in our favour, because it turns it into more of almost a derby sort of feel, because the fans are desperate to get one over on Lazio from where they stand. So I'm fully expecting Celtic Park to be absolutely rocking on Wednesday night. But I also think there is going to be that level there of we can get something from this. This isn't just Celtic Park putting on the noise to then just roll over and get done in and lose the match by a few goals, like's happened too many times in recent years. I fully expect this to be a really good game of football. I think Lazio are no mugs, absolutely not. But if you're asking me, do I think Celtic can win this game? Absolutely, I do. I expect most Celtic fans will have a similar belief. And that's where it all comes down to. I think we've got to start believing that we can get these results in this competition, particularly at home. I think even when you're looking back on it, even against Feyenoord, we were more than in that game. Up until the silly goal we conceded before half time, and then we're obviously down to 10 men in the second half before it kind of gets away from us completely. Celtic have shown in the first game that they have got the ability, even though they're not at full strength, to compete with these teams in this competition. I think at home it's a different dynamic. I think they'll be expected to get on the front foot. I think Brendan will have them on the front foot. I think Lazio will find themselves under a hell of a lot of pressure on Wednesday night. And I think if the stars align the way that I hope they do, we could be celebrating a huge win, and one that we massively need, because if we get a win on Wednesday, the confidence that will give this team going into the remaining fixtures in this group will be huge, because it'll be a monkey off the back. I can't remember the last time we won in the Champions League. Was it Anderlecht away maybe in the groups? I feel like it might have been. So it's been a while, and we could really do with getting a win. And particularly home games, you're going back even further than that. So it's massive for us to get that monkey off our back. And if we've got any hopes of progressing in this competition, we need a win. We need a win on Wednesday. It's simple as that.
Look forward to it. It's been one hell of a weekend. We've enjoyed Celtic, the 97th minute winners. We've watched Rangers get humped 3-1 at home by an ex-Celtic player as manager in the Dandy Dons, who hate them as much as we do, let's be honest. And we then watched the departure of Mickey Beale. But just when my weekend, I thought it was over, sort of a nice glass of wine. Chill out on the bus and bask in the close of the weekend. I forgot this face would pop up at the bottom, and he comes.
Hello.
There he is. McGinley, how are you?
Smashing. What a weekend. Eventful, to say the least. I'm buzzing from all of that. It's been a crazy couple of days, to say. But just everything's went on, and we saw it coming. We've tried to warn them. We tried to say we told you so, but they just didn't listen. And he's now...
How have you felt about the revisionism now? Because almost everyone that's phoned in on the Clyde Run phone-in tonight has been like, fucking, I never liked him. I actually didn't like what he did to Gio. And I'm like, none of you cared. You all thought he was coming back in. It was then the COVID season Mark 2 would naturally follow. There was none of this nonsense that we've seen this anywhere. It's a complete revisionism, Phil, isn't it?
It's curious how a few weeks ago they kept on saying, it's his first game, because we're treating it with the mentality of, well, he's now got his players, so this is now his first game. And we kept saying, no, he's been the manager since November last year. But no, they just stuck the fingers in yours, didn't want to listen. And now, as you say, it's all like, he's not won a big game, lost this cup final last season. It's like, yeah, we know. We were telling you all, but you saw it happen right in front of your eyes, and you've just been denying it the entire time. Strange bunch, honestly. And it's just funny to see them just falling apart right now. I honestly say I've got no sympathy at all. Thoroughly enjoying it. I will miss his nonsense though, because it did give me that fuel essentially. But you're right about the Alex Ray thing and all. It's like, who can they appoint that'll hate just as much? There you go. There's somebody right there. So yeah, man. But we'll see how they get on. But hopefully it's not good. They continue to suffer.
It's like Groundhog Day. It's like Groundhog Day with Brendan Rodgers coming back. I feel like we've watched this movie so many times, but it never gets old. It's one of my favourites to go back and watch.
Class. Especially when they bring in characters like him and you just go, oh, fuck him, man. Honestly, this is going to be great watching this. Do you know what I mean? The demise of Mickey Beale, he deserves everything that's came his way. And you know what? He's getting paid off handsomely, so don't go, oh, you're picking on an individual. And it's like, you need to remember he's a human being. He's getting like £3 million for doing shite at Rangers. Nobody cares, mate. Honestly, fucking take your medicine and fuck off. Do you know what I mean? Thanks for taking part. And now we'll do the rest. But before I get too carried away, it's sudden death time. What's the score?
It's a famous scoreline. It's 6-2 just now in Jonathan's favour. So that's but at the moment there's 4 points in it. But as I keep saying every week, these deficits can be overturned, and there's still plenty of time to go. But yep, sudden death time. Time for that penalty shootout style competition between the brothers Bhoys. I've got a question here with answers, plenty of them, and obviously give me a right answer, score a goal, and give me a wrong answer, you miss. 5 shots each. Of course, the person who goes second is entitled to a lifeline, a clue, a hint, a riddle, whatever you want to call it. It just depends. Just how it's easy thing to say. It's only easy if you know it. You know, sometimes it will just click right away, and you're like, I know what that is. And other times you just look at me with total bemusement, like, Phil, that's not a clue. What even was that? But yes, let's. I'll set up all the aesthetics, boys, and you can say your piece to each other just now while I get all that done.
I mean, well, Russell, to be honest with you, you're quite lucky the Rangers board aren't in charge of sudden death, or you would have been sacked by now, as well. I think they would have handed you your jars and replaced you with Alex Ray, because they might have thought he might give me more of a challenge than what you were putting up this season.
I'm just gonna try and play with my initiative the best I can. I don't know if you've seen that clip doing the rounds of Alex Ray recently. He said he wants them to play with the team to play with their initiative. So I'm going to try and play with my initiative tonight.
Sounds like a good plan. Yeah, hopefully initiative gets you over the line, because you obviously do need to the point quite desperately. So yeah, let's get the music started and let's get going. Done. And yeah, Jonathan, you won the point the last time. So do you wish to go first, or do you wish to go second?
I wish to go first, thank you, Phil.
Okay. So once again, Russell, you are entitled to a hint if you so need it at any point. Okay, so tonight's question has a very generous, a mammoth, sweltering 31 correct answers, guys. There's lots in the pool. And again, it's a bit on trend. Sometimes I do this with the questions. But in celebration of Brendan Rodgers seeing off Michael Beale, let's concentrate on all the managers that Brendan has bested at Celtic. So with the exception of Beale, can you name any manager Brendan Rodgers has a win over in a Scottish Premiership league game? So all he's got to do is one win over any manager in the Scottish Premiership. And of course, we're talking going all the way back to 2016.
Lovely. Well, let's start with one of the first Rangers victims. Let's go for Mark Warburton.
Yes.
Remember they used to wear those silly bread packets? What was that? Crazy
magic
times.
hat.
Crazy.
And again, I'll just reaffirm, I said with the exception of Beale, just in case you jump in there with it. So he's in disqualified.
Is that Russell's clue? That sounds like Russell's clue's been used there, to be honest with you.
I'm just re-emphasising that.
So it's just any manager. He's got a win over
any manager that's got a win in a Premiership game. I haven't included the cup games like League Cup and Scottish Cup. I can be
sure.
Just a league one.
Still go Graham Murty.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. So
you would still. Many a times, you're probably sick of beating him. Caixhina.
Yes, indeed.
Gerard.
And yes, of course. I had a feeling they wanted to get cleared out first.
Yeah, I'm going to go and take another one that was very nearly the Rangers manager, I think, when he was there, but he stuck it out at Aberdeen. Derek McInnes.
Yeah, old Dale. Yeah.
Stephen Robinson.
Yeah, indeed, as a
manager. Next.
Yeah, Stephen Robinson is correct.
I'm going to go for one I thought Russell would have said by now. Neil Lennon.
Yeah, he did get wins over. He didn't beat him at Easter Road, but he did beat him at Celtic Park.
He beat him at Celtic Park.
Yeah, couldn't beat him at Easter Road.
I'm already struggling. I hate this game. I can't think of Premier League teams anymore. I'm like, what's going on? What happens when I play this silly game? Oh, God. 2016 to 19 all seems so long ago. Fuck. This is embarrassing. I'm going to say Paul Hartley.
Paul Hartley's correct. He was the
Dundee.
Dundee manager. Yeah, he was. Yep, that's correct. So that is 4 apiece after 4 kicks each.
I'm going to take the current Scotland manager, Steve Clark.
Yep, Steve Clark is correct. So 5-4. Russell, you need this one.
Oh, this is ridiculous. This is even in my head.
Now, keep in mind before you say anything.
No, I'm gonna guess
Okay.
it.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
I'm gonna keep the clue for the shootout for a change.
Okay.
I think it's
Okay.
right. Martin Canning.
That is correct. Hamilton Academical manager Martin Cairney.
Why is he in
Well,
my head? That shows you how
Fun.
much I'm all over the place, man.
Yeah, Martin Cairney was Hamilton Academicals manager at a point when Brendan played against him and got many wins against Martin Cairney.
I'm going to make you look a bit silly here. There was one at the weekend just there, Kettlewell. You said him earlier on.
Stuart Kettlewell's correct. Yeah,
Of
any
course.
manager that he's got. Stuart Kettlewell would also count for Ross County as well. So he covers 2 teams. But yep, Stuart
Very
Kettlewell.
good.
Correct.
Was Rodgers? Kettlewell wasn't Ross County manager when Rodgers was there.
There was
Was he?
they done a joint manager thing where they had a guy.
Not when
another
Rodgers was there.
The start of the 2018-19 season, was it? But he's also Motherwell manager anyway just now,
I
so
thought it
that
was
one
it.
does count.
So they took over.
Yeah,
after that.
definitely counts. So it's just
They
there
did
at the
a weird
weekend.
thing where they had 2 co-managers and Kettlewell was one of them, but I think he was more the assistant. But
I
he was
forgot
called the
again about
co-manager.
this season. So we'll say David Martindale.
Yeah, Martindale is correct.
That was the other one I had written down.
So that takes
No.
us to 6 apiece.
Now I am up against it. Yeah. Gonna guess one. Callum Davidson.
Oh, I don't think so.
This is an interesting development. Callum Davidson is wrong. Russell is in a
Oh,
position
no!
to actually win a round.
I don't think this has been said. That we spoke about it. What was you saying earlier, Jonathan? We were talking. You've said him tonight. Barry Robson.
Oh yeah, of
Correct.
course.
Oh, Barry Robson's correct. You didn't even need your clue.
Oh,
Didn't
man.
even need your clue.
Oh, coming back. That means I get 2 clues next week. Come on, now.
Do you want to know what the clue was for one of the missing answers to see if
Go
you
on.
would have got it anyway? Okay. I've got one here. He didn't appreciate a phone camera being pointing in his face when getting set.
Oh, Mark
Mark
McGee.
McGee.
Mark McGee. Motherwell manager, but I'll give you a few of the ones that you missed. I say
Yes.
So you got the 2 Aberdeen ones, which were McInnes and Robson. A couple of Dundee ones: Neil McCann, Jim McIntyre, and Tony Docherty, who's our manager this season. Brian Rice, Hamilton Academical. He also had a game against them, took over from Canning. The Inverness Cali Thistle one was one of the toughest ones. There was only one manager that came up against it, was Richie Foran. So you would have there. Hearts, I'm surprised you stayed away from Hearts. Robbie Nielsen, Ian Caffrell, and Craig Levine.
Oh, Craig Levine. I just thought of Levine. He was growing the grass,
Hibernian.
remember when Brendan was there?
Hibs had 2 managers,
That's right.
Neil Lennon being one, and Eddie May was the other one that also lost to Brendan Rodgers. Kilmarnock. You also got Stevie Clark, but Lee Clark and Lee McCulloch
Lee
were
McCulloch.
2 options as well. Yep.
Wow, Lee Clark. Remember that? Yeah.
Motherwell, Mark McGee, Partick Thistle, Alan Archibald, Ross County, Owen Coyle, Stephen Ferguson was the other joint manager, and Malky Mackay. St Johnston, Tommy Wright, and the St Mirren one was one you would have done really well. Oren Cairney, I believe it's pronounced.
Yeah.
There you
Yeah,
go.
I get that.
So a lot of answers here, but not fair play. Russell, you're back in it, mate. You're back on the board, my man. Well done. There you go.
Good win. A good competition that today.
Thanks so much, Jonathan. I really appreciate your support.
Great
as always.
character. Great
Oh,
character.
what top's that you're wearing? Is that Valencia? Old school?
Germany. It's like a 1970s Germany shirt.
Ah, of course it's the German badge.
Yeah. I was actually miles away from wearing an Italian themed shirt tonight, but when I saw what you were wearing tonight, I thought it's a good thing I didn't, or else Jonathan would be screaming conspiracy.
It's a peach, eh?
Mm.
Euro 96. It's a good one.
It's got.
Yeah. See if you get the badge, yeah.
Was that Euro 96?
Yes, Euro 96, yeah.
That's a classic, though. Love it. DH Gate, man. Just love it.
Yeah.
What a sight.
Great. It's a great sight.
Aye, when the stuff comes through real, though, do you know what I mean? Like, sometimes it's like, fucking, like, what you sent me, man, do you know what I mean? But anyway, we will leave it there. this show, as always, we'd like to dedicate to Mickey Beale because he is the main man. I will not miss his bottom teeth, but I will miss his pish. Anyway, thanks, Jonathan. Thanks, Phil. That's Monday. That's a wrap. Remember, wrap up tight tonight, -7.